Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Good morning, viewers, and welcome to Tobago Updates Morning Show. I am your host, Renessa Ortiz, and I'm joined in studio by Alex Brown. Good morning, Alex.
Morning, Renessa. Good morning, viewers. It's Tuesday.
It is Tuesday, and it's the 28th of April. We are 2 days away from the end of April.
Slow down.
Bringing in the best month of the year. We want to say thank you for joining us here on Tobago Updates Morning Show and making us your number one station. To all of you joining us on YouTube, Facebook, AMPLIA, Digicel, and we want to say thank you for staying right here with us. Before we get any further into the programming, we head on over to news in 90 seconds. The Trinidad and Tobago Registered Nurses Association begins its total patient care action today. The union is strictly enforcing a 1:6 nurse to patient ratio and has threatened to name and shame by publishing names and pictures of chairmen, CEOs, GMs of nursing, and nursing administrators who oversee unsafe conditions. However, Health Secretary Dr. Faith Brebner says Tobago remains unaffected. She notes the island's ratios are already between 1:5 and 1:7, assuring the public that local healthcare services continue to run steadily with contingencies in place. Outrage is growing among marine operators following the passage of the Marine Park Bill. The new legislation unveils harsh penalties for offenders, with fines jumping from a mere 1,000 to as high as 100,000. While the THA insists these measures are vital for public safety, after the recent Pigeon Point tragedy, tour guides and jet ski operators claim the fines are excessive and threaten their livelihoods. And finally, if you're traveling by sea this weekend, take note. Starting May 1st, the Inter-Island Ferry Service is implementing new boarding procedures. Passengers will now have their boarding passes scanned twice, first upon entering the departure lounge and again before stepping onto the vessel. Customer service reps will be stationed at both the Port of Spain and Scarborough terminals to help guide travelers through the new flow. That was your news in 90 seconds. Stay tuned for our full newscast at 6:30 p.m. So, Alex, the Marine Parks Bill.
It's quite an interesting transition, as it were. I think I understand the intent. I think everybody understands the intent. Are the penalties too harsh? Maybe, maybe not. It's easy for me to say no, they're not, because I'm not one of the persons likely to be involved in breach. But maybe that's par for the course. Maybe it's the price we have to pay for previous ill disciplines, for previous transgressions. Maybe it's the price we have to pay so that some of us who are not inclined to police ourselves will actually be policed. Is it sustainable? Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. We really need to see how it's rolled out. I am not sure that a new bill in and of itself is a full stop solution. Given the state of crime in our country, I can say without fear of successful contradiction that it is not due to lack of law. We have always had an issue with law enforcement, and not necessarily with law enforcement personnel, but with our approaches to law enforcement and our, I'd say frankly, willingness in some cases to enforce some of our laws. I think if we get around to enforcing some of the laws that we already have, we can find ourselves in a better place. I am willing to suggest that if we were able and practicing enforcing what was already in place, we would not be in the situation we are now, where we're doing what we're doing. But let's hope for the best.
And I have to agree with you to some extent in terms of we have fines for a lot of things in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, and yet we still see individuals breaking these laws and they still have these penalties to pay. So are the fines really a deterrent? Because there are individuals who would still do it in spite of. We are hoping that it would be a deterrent. And there are many more things within the Marine Parks Bill that I have not gotten a chance to read about as yet. So there are things I still have reservations about saying at this point in time.
You said the fines that exist for many things. Let me tell you one of the things I have seen recently. The Tobago House of Assembly put out and saying, look, we're going to go the way of enforcing of the derelict vehicles, regulations, and what have you. And probably within a couple of days after that went public, what now looks like a derelict vehicle is parked on a junction very near to my home. It was just put there, and whoever put it there has not looked back since. Across the road from that vehicle is one of the THA signs that says no dumping. And like as a spit in the face, people dump stuff right around the pole that the sign is erected on, as if to say, well, yeah, let's see you do something about it. We really have to push a little further in terms of enforcement. I think if we do that more often and with more consistency, we can go a long way. So again, with this Marine Parks Bill, while it may answer some of our questions, it may not answer those that require actions beyond passing a bill into law.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Now, viewers, before we head any further into the programming, we head on over to our celebratory segment this morning. We're heading into our birthday shout-outs. First up on our birthday shout-outs this morning, we have Joshua Roberts. Happy birthday to you from us here at the Tobago Updates family. We wish you a vibrant day today, and you take some time to self-reflect about what you want this upcoming year to look like. Up next
is Kelvin Warren. We say a very, very happy birthday to you. So we hope that that look that says, I am looking at what is happening, begins a year of true focus and paying attention to how life unfolds. And certainly we hope that as life unfolds for you, it unfolds with the desires of your heart being met by God. Happy birthday to you.
Next up, we have Kimmy Potts, one of our known faces here in the Tobago space as it relates to culture. She's very, very much involved and ensures that each year there is something within the Tobago Festival space, as well as she continues to put out for keeping that culture alive within the space. We want to wish you many more years of life so that you can continue to do what you do and that you have a bright and prosperous year ahead.
Following Kimmy, we have Nigel Williams. Happy birthday to you. We trust that this kind of debonair appearance that we're seeing reflects what your new year is going to look like. We trust that you are going to find peace, you're going to find happiness, and today is going to be a day shared with those you love, those who love you, and of course that love can radiate to those around you. Happy birthday and all the best for the new year. And we have a very, 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 very special one in this one. Shouldn't we share this one? Shouldn't we share this one? You're not sharing it? No, this special lady celebrates 100 years today.
That is such a milestone.
100 years. Her name is Lucille Forbes. 1926 to 2026. I don't know why you want to rush April off. Look at the kind of celebrations we're having. There aren't sufficient words to describe what this means to me, and I don't know Miss Forbes. So I'm certain that her family is really in probably the best mood ever today, and certainly we hope that you, Miss Lucille Forbes, are really having a wonderful day. We trust that as you looked back on 100 years of life, you can look forward to whatever comes in the future with grace, with comfort, with confidence, knowing that all that you've been through in 100 years has prepared you for whatever life has to come. We trust that you have a really, really happy birthday, and that as you go forward with faith and confidence, knowing where your future lies. Happy birthday to you, Miss Forbes.
Happy birthday to you, Miss Forbes. We hope you have a bright day ahead. Wow, 100 years.
100 years.
100 years. I hope that you reach that milestone.
You're not catering for 100 for you. Right? I'm looking forward to my 100. You know? I'm not in a hurry to go anywhere. You know? There seems to be quite a number of interesting things happening around. I'll stick around for as long as I can.
Now, Alex, can you tell the viewers this morning what we have in store for them on the rundown?
We have some very, very interesting discussions upcoming. I don't know how many people used to watch Star Trek and think we're doing some time travel. So we're discussing a time capsule with the Department of Environment and Marine Resources. So we'll have that discussion and they'll tell us all about the time capsule, the whys and whats and so on. And then we've been seeing, even in the news this morning, we've been seeing that there's a lot happening in terms of changes to inter-island travel. Bandied about recently was a $1,000 airfare on the air bridge, and so we'll be discussing we'll be discussing policy positions and what we can realistically expect, what we can't realistically expect as we go forward with the inter-island challenges that we've faced for many a year.
And viewers, there you have it. You just have to stay tuned here with us at Tobago Updates to get and to be a part of all of these conversations this morning. Up next, joining us, we have Barry Lovelace, Director of Marine Resources, and we're talking about the registration for the time capsule in commemoration of the 250th celebration of the Main Ridge Forest Reserve. Stay tuned and remember to share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back.
Looking for office attire or worship apparel, then come to Tia's Classic Closet. Shopping for casual clothing or just want to dress down. Big discount, so it's you on clothing and comfortable shoes. Get some wonderful accessories to match your attire. Come to Tia's Classic Closet at 39 Montgomery Road. Opening hours daily from 9:30 to 5:30. For more information, call 710-168-99999.
Make your goals a reality this season with Mount Pleasant Credit Union. Tobago's choice, we got you smiling. Come and feel that mid-year feeling, oh yeah. Mid-year island dreams, we make it easy. $20,000 to $100,000. Come and see, we warm hearts, bright plans, your goals grow. Mount Pleasant Credit Union, Tobago's choice. You know, every loan wants to prove more reasons to celebrate. Chance to win big, doesn't that feel great? Up to $3,500 in exciting gift certificates. Share investment starts as low as $2,500. Mid-year island dreams, we make it easy. $20,000 to $100,000. Come and see, we warm hearts, bright plans, let your goals grow. Mount Pleasant Credit Union, Tobago's choice, you know.
Are you ready, Tobago, for the BHS Centennial Raffle Live Draw? 10 amazing prizes, one unforgettable evening. Join us this Thursday, April 30th at 5 p.m. live on the Rotunda at the Esplanade in Tobago. Catch the action live on Tobago Updates wherever you are. Who will take home the grand prize? It could be you.
Sofa Factory is here in Tobago. Conveniently located Montessori Drive, Glen Road, Scarborough. Up to 20% off on select sofas for customization. Deals on some sofas from as low as $4,000 until stocks last. 10% off on all wardrobes. Half off on shower heads with the purchase of a vanity set. Come in and experience the new way to shop for furniture and see the quality in person.
Trinidad is my home, and I always say charity begins at home. So I'm just delighted to bring this team of dedicated volunteers. Part of our motto is that we just don't send relief. We hand deliver it with care and compassion. And as I would always tell my team, the best way to find oneself is to lose oneself in the service of others.
Be viewing Caribbean Medical TV on this station.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Viewers, welcome back. As promised before the break, here in studio with us, we have Mr. Barry Lovelace, the Director of Marine Resources, and we're talking about the registration for the time capsule. Good morning and welcome to you.
Hi, good morning, and good morning to which camera should I watch? This one, that one? Yeah? Good morning, Tobago, and not just Tobago, Trinidad, all over the world.
Now, we're not just celebrating 250 years of the marine, we're also sending a message 50 years into the future. Tell us about this time capsule and what it would represent, and especially when it's going to be opened on April 30th, 2076.
Right. So the focus this morning is that time capsule, right? And I think very soon the information will be up there as to how anybody, whether locally or internationally, can register their message to the future, right? But before I delve into that, it's a whole week of celebrations that we're celebrating this year. Yesterday we had the opening, right? Up at the main ridge. It was very, successful. Students who would have participated in a mural competition, they would have gotten their results and so on. They gotten their grants and so on. Today, in the next hour or so, students from 5 high schools around Tobago would be participating in a theatrical reenactment of the debate that would have happened in 1776, right, with Samoa Jennings and his colleagues and so on, debating as to the pros and cons of reserving the mountainous lands in Tobago, right, for the protection of rains, right. So I just want persons to tune into that, in the next hour or so, right. And then on Wednesday, well, this is a more exclusive event for policymakers, secretaries, administrators of that sort, persons who shape or environmental policy, to have a sort of intimate scientific experience, bird banding experience in the main ridge forest. That is Wednesday. And then Thursday is the grand finale, right? We have in the morning, that's what you mentioned there, the procession of the time capsule. That will be somewhat of a production, a street parade or a street drama, right, if you'll be, right, where the capsule will be passed from persons representing past stewards of the forest. It will be passed on to present stewards of the forest and then to future stewards of the forest in a nice choreographed display on the streets, right? So that's Thursday. And then you have, that's Thursday morning, and then you have in the evening, a gala award ceremony where 25 persons who would have, contributed to forest conservation will be honored on that evening. So that's the lineup, right? And of course, well, the way the public can participate best, I think, is in that time capsule event, right? Where you have the opportunity to send a message to, well, what year is that? 2076. Yes. Right? Well, for the younger ones, they could send it to themselves. But for like me and you, we have to send it to the grandchildren, right? But it's an opportunity. I mean, imagine 250 years ago, the British Parliament made that decision, and we still benefiting from it today. The rainforest is there intact. If you ever go on the map and you look at it, it's a quite a significant acreage area, right? That is just there reserved, conserved. It has an enormous amount of, in terms of variety of species that live there, right? The biodiversity is rich. It's where we get our water from, you know, a source of water, and it's even the backbone of our ecotourism, right? And so it's a treasure that this thing has happened. I think it was, you know, divine providence that moved upon Mr. Jennings to, you know, argue for the protection of the rainforest, right?
The protection of the rainforest has been something that we have all benefited from.
Yeah.
What exactly do we intend to say to the future in a time capsule about the rainforest, and why a time capsule as the mechanism of saying something to the future?
Right. Well, once I saw you here, I know I was going to get tough questions. But on the time capsule itself, if you go to the registry, and I think it might be an opportune time to put up the link, right? The link is 250 mainridge.titl.tt. Right, you go there, you see there's a countdown line. I forgot to mention that because this thing was open for 250, or is open, it's still open for 250 hours, which equates to 10 hours, 10 days, 10 hours. It started Saturday, 2 o'clock last Saturday, and it ends tonight, midnight. So people, you don't have time, right? Go and register your message quickly.
How much time?
Now, there are some suggestions there as to what you can say to the future, right? Well, 4 of them, I don't remember all of them, but one of them is you can describe what the century that you are living in. What is it that you are experiencing now? You know, you could talk about AI, in terms of the technology, the wars that are happening, and you hope humanity, solves their problems and so on, and they are benefiting from us having solved the problems and so on. That kind of message. You can also send messages to someone who you anticipate will be in the future reading your message, a grandchild, a son, daughter. You hope if you have a 5-year-old daughter, see, what's just I don't know.
That age a little bit low.
But by that time they'll be 55. So you're saying, oh, I hope you had a wonderful life and fulfilling, and that kind of thing, right? You could also send a message to them in terms of, because we would have passed on that treasure to them.
I think that's where the crux is, especially from the perspective of your department.
Yes.
What message or what is the intent you have? Yes. Because certainly you must be concerned about the future preservation of the forest. So what is intended from that perspective, and why is the time capsule doing?
Well, when the time capsule idea came, it was like, yes, that's it. Because here it is, we inheriting this thing from 250 years ago, right? And we were thinking, well, what can we do, to that is meaningful, right? And we're saying, well, we are the present stewards of this gift that we received from back then. We want it to go on. So what better way than to encapsulate our desire to the future in terms of telling them, we want you to, and mind you, in the procession, you'll see that storyline depicted in the procession, right? And the future will be represented by students. Some of the same students who are there getting ready right now as we speak for the debate.
Okay.
Right? So they will be there, and I'm sure many of them will be inspired from this experience to actually take up, careers and so on in environmental conservation and so on, and be there to open this thing and say, well, yes, 50 years ago, by now they'll be 60 or 70 something, right? I was there, and I made that commitment, and they are encouraged to write messages to themselves. And here it is, my commitment that I made, I kept it.
While I grasp the philosophy behind the time capsule and time being the operative word,
yes,
between 2026 and 2076, do we have smaller capsules in which we work?
Well,
in terms of trying, because it can't be that we're going to bury a time capsule and just close our eyes.
Right, right.
So do we?
Well, that's an idea.
Do we have smaller capsules that we can work with, so that in the interim, those generations between now and 2076
will be accountable? Yeah, that's an idea. Now, I should mention that this one capsule that we are installing, well, it won't be buried. It will be installed at the main red center. You have a glass case, like a museum, something, you know. But that one is special in that it captures this moment in terms of the 250 celebrations.
Right.
However, we have 3 other capsules of similar type, right, that will be done at the end of the year, right? So I probably didn't want to, I probably should have said that, I probably should have said that today, because people say, another bite at the cherry. But if you don't get in this one, this is a special one. This is exclusive, right? Just those who send message to 250 will be in this one.
And I think it's important, viewers, if you've not done the math, to understand that we're at 250 years. A 50-year time capsule means that the rainforest would be protected and preserved by that time for 300 years.
Yes, yes.
I think that's an interesting milestone.
That's another interesting milestone. Mind you, before the time run out, because the time does run out here like a poof when I'm talking, right? The parliamentarian that would have argued that case would have been but I say Ame, but it's Soom. I think the correct pronunciation is Soom Jennings, right? Soom Jennings. Now, he would have been convinced by his friend, who was a scientist doing that kind of work with plants and so on. He discovered plants play a critical role in the water cycle. And so he took up that argument to his plantation. They had sugar planting. He was also on the board of commissions that, govern plantations in the Caribbean here. So he put that argument to them that if they don't protect the rains, sugar would be in trouble, right? Anyway, so we thought that we should investigate to see if he has any relatives, still. But we discovered that he didn't have any children, so he didn't have any direct lineage. However, the person who would have inherited his house was a cousin, right? So we decided let's draft a letter. Mr. Darren Henry signed the letter and we sent it off. Just, so, guess what? We got a response, right? And so, his, what you call that? Collateral descendants, they call it. Collateral descendant, George Jennings, he reached out and even sent a message, right? I spoke to him yesterday.
I thought you were going to tell me he'll be here.
Well, too short notice for that, but remember, it's a year of celebration. We just started the celebration, right? It's a whole year of celebration from the 30th of April this year to 30th of April next year. TTAL, which is a partner or closest partner in this thing, and Tobago Reforestation, they will be celebrating throughout the year. Right? I don't know if they're ready to show the little greeting that he sent. Right? That is George Jennings. Is ready?
Look at the camera, Leah, please. We are very pleased that 250 years ago, the main Ridge Forest Reserve in Tobago received legal protections that our relative, Soam Jennings, pictured behind, was instrumental in making happen. And we are honoured that the people of Trinidad and Tobago are recognising this contribution as part of the anniversary.
Yeah, right. So he sent that message. We had a good conversation last night. He's very excited, and so he decided that he's gonna. Well, I sent the registry to him, so he's gonna distribute the registry in his family so that they will send messages to the future. And well, we hope that they can actually make a visit sometime during the year. Right. So it's quite history coming to life. It's an exciting time.
I'm really excited about the rollout of this time capsule because for persons in my generation, I believe we may be around to see the opening of this time capsule.
So you're trying to say we wouldn't be around?
Remember you said 100 years for me.
I'll be around. Just eat healthy and stuff. And, you know,
I think that is really interesting how our history has been passed on from generations and how we are going to continue preserving the legacy of what it is, the main Ridge Forest Reserve. And the importance of involving our young people, especially through the forms of the murals and the competitions that you have had up until this point. Now, I want to ask you one question. If you could place one message into that time capsule, what would it be?
Oh my, they catch me there, you know. Because guess what? All you see I promoting, I ain't read my message yet, you know. But I'm thinking about it, I want it to be so profound, Alex. I'm still constructing the message. But I have a daughter. She's 12 years old. I think most of the message will be directed to her. But I'll also talk towards, in terms of what this era we are living in is quite with the event of artificial intelligence, and you know, it's quite a wonderful time, and you know, to be alive and to see the changes happening so swiftly. So I'll probably talk to that and try to predict to some extent what they might be experiencing and ask them, was I correct? You know, you know, but the main focal point I think will be my daughter. That's what, you know, sending a message to her, right? She'll be what, 60 something, 62 around that time. So wow, surreal.
Now, as we wrap up this morning, I just wanted to remind the viewers who are looking on, who want to register for this time capsule, the link. Just remind them of the link again and where they can go to be a part of this momentous occasion.
And as you see, that remind me of one other thing. But the link is 250 titl.tt. Also, there'll be opportunity to do physical notes. You can send a handwritten note. We have archival pen, Alex, and archival paper, special paper, right?
That speaks to my ear.
Yeah. Right? The secretaries, we are encouraging the secretaries and administrators between today and Wednesday morning, Wednesday noon, right? They can visit Mr. Henry's, Darren Henry, the Secretary for the Environment, visit his office. They set up there. They can sign physically and leave their message. The time capsule will be stationed there. Also, we're hoping to have a station at the legislature as well, given that they are having that debate there today, right? So we're hoping the students will be able to write their physical messages after they finish the debate. Whoever administrators and so are there, they'll have that opportunity. But we're also hoping that a station could be set up at the legislature, such a person could do their physical writing. Beyond that, after the 30th, right, the place to go will be Tobago Reforestation. They will now have, throughout the year, they will have the archival stuff there where you can go and take a time, and we have to pay $25. So trying to get in on the free one, right?
So viewers, there you have it. I really appreciate this initiative, this time capsule, and I know it would be something that is cherished, especially when it's time for it to be open and really give us an insight of what it was like.
Could I stick in one more thing?
Sure, no problem.
Right. As you say, cherished, and look, now, as I said, this one will be installed at the main ridge, right? It's not buried, so you can go throughout your lifetime, Brown, and look at it and say, you know, my message inside there, you know, I know that thing. Tourists can come from wherever, the Jennings can come and say, yes, this is my messages inside there, awaiting the next 50 years, right? So just wanted to put that in.
I want to thank you so much for coming on this morning and talking to us about the registration for the time capsule and encouraging those looking on to come and register online and to send their messages so that they can be a part of this momentous occasion. Viewers, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Remember to share the live, share the live, share the live.
Indeed.
Okay. 335, 336, 337, 338, 339.
Counting on your fingers again. No wonder you lose your business.
Grandpa, thanks for helping me start over.
You not lucky in business, you know. As a child, you tried to sell hog plum. That failed. As a teenager, you and your boyfriend tried to break into the jewelry business. But hey, where that boy end up?
He live in Aruka in the Grove. The golden one.
Oh, child, if you want to get into business, you have to have your financial records intact. But hey, do you know your numbers?
Of course, 624 33.
No, child, your numbers, your ratios, your equity ratios. You have a financial handicap.
What?
You need to see somebody about that. Anderson.
Who?
Anderson in Trinidad and Tobago, they offer tax and accounting services. They know about financial management.
Grandpa, I started this business with nothing.
And nothing is what you will end up with unless you call Anderson Services. Here.
Okay, this card is nice.
Yeah.
What's this?
Your rental fee. Have business will pay rent. Hot and groovy in the soca party.
Are you ready, Tobago, for the BHS Centennial Raffle Live Draw? 10 amazing prizes, one unforgettable evening. Join us this Thursday, April 30th at 5 p.m. live on the Rotunda at the Esplanade in Tobago. Catch the action live on Tobago Update wherever you are. Who will take home the grand prize? It could be you.
Sofa Factory is here in Tobago. Conveniently located Montessori Drive, Glen Road, Scarborough. Up to 20% off on select sofas for customization. Deals on some sofas from as low as $4,000 until stocks last. 10% off on all wardrobes. Half off on shower heads with the purchase of a vanity set. Come in and experience the new way to shop for furniture and see the quality in person.
Make your goals a reality this season with Mount Pleasant Credit Union. Tobago's choice, we got you smiling. Come and feel that mid-year feeling, oh yeah. Mid-year island dreams, we make it easy. $20,000 to $100,000. Come and see, we warm hearts, bright plans, your goals grow. Mount Pleasant Credit Union, Tobago's choice. You know, every loan wants to prove more reasons to celebrate. Chance to win big, doesn't that feel great? Up to $3,500 in exciting gift certificates. Share investment starts as low as $2,500. Mid-year island dreams, we make it easy. $20,000 to $100,000. Come and see, we warm hearts, bright plans. Let your goals grow. Whoa. Mount Pleasant Credit Union, Tobago's choice, you know.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Welcome back, viewers. As promised, we're discussing the air bridge and the recent developments that have been taking place. To discuss that with us this morning is economist Dr. Vanus James. He's joining us virtually. Good morning, Dr. James, and welcome.
Morning, Alex. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Doing all right.
All right. Dr. James, let's jump right in, and let's start from the fact that in my entire life, the air bridge has been a perennial challenge. We've always heard the cry of lack of profitability, and it seems as though the air bridge has been the reason why the airline has not been profitable. We've seen we moved to Caribbean Airlines. Inside there was Tobago Express and all that. And there still seems to be an issue with the airline really being able to sustain itself and to make travel between Trinidad and Tobago by air fairly stable and reliable. What initially would you tell us may have been responsible for this before we get to the current issue on the table?
Well, if the airline has been operating in an unprofitable way, one good reason for that is likely to be that it's been operated as a public utility. Another reason is that you're talking about a very small airline, a tiny airline in the global scheme. And if you look at the global industry, the airlines that announce significant profits every year are the big ones: American Airlines, United, the Emirates, Qantas. The big airlines are the ones that tend to report substantial profits. The industry operates generally on a pretty tight margin, as you know. Fuel costs alone tend to be very, very volatile, and so this is delicate business, and it needs to be managed with some cleverness. I don't know that I can agree with you, though, that the lack of profitability on the airline across the decades has a lot to do with the air bridge.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that is what has been said to us, often by the airline itself and by others.
Yeah, one would need to see the complex of efforts made by the airline. For example, I know for a fact that in the last couple of years, when Gavin Nicholas was running it, they had introduced a number of new services that were themselves profitable. And the air bridge generally is not profitable because what we're doing is running it as a subsidized facility. Now, that has significant implications for the profitability of the airline to the extent that government meets its subsidy commitments, and depending on how those subsidies are defined, if they're defined against a viable benchmark, the prices that are supposed to make the air bridge profitable at some margin, 2%, 3%, and so on, if they're defined that way, then government would have to put up the subsidy to allow the bridge to be profitable. If the public is to match the relevant profit-making price, so to say, then maybe you have things to do to ensure that poor people could use the airline too, that sort of stuff. So there is some work that needs to be done for us to know for a fact that the air bridge itself is not profitable, given government's commitments, and what is to be done to make it profitable.
Would you imagine, given in general terms government's record of payments, that may have negatively impacted the profitability over the years? Because we often hear that we need to remove the subsidy. Would you think that possibly the rate of providing the subsidies may have been a significant contributor?
Right, and I think a lot depends on how they've been doing it. As I said before, what I would do, if you ask me as a practicing economist, and if you ask a good accountant how it should be done, what would need to be done is you would have to calculate the break-even price, and then and that's given the traffic and all of that, the volume on the bridge. We can project that, and we can identify the price at which the company would break even, treating the air bridge itself as a company and charging a certain amount of the overheads of the airline as a whole to the air bridge. All that has to be done. And then you could determine how much markup would be required for the bridge to be a viable outfit. And then in that context, what government has to do is work out how to structure the seat arrangements and the delivery of the subsidies to the public. I am not aware, as far as I know from talking to people and I talk to people from time to time in the airline, I'm not aware that this is the approach that has been adopted over the decades, but that is the approach that is needed. So to the extent that that is not the approach, and that is controlled by the board, which is controlled by the government, then you get to assign responsibility for the operation of the airbridge to the approach of the policymakers and the controllers of the board. They are the ones you would have to hold responsible for the situation, subject to the possibility that the price on the bridge may required to make it viable may be out of reach of a large number of persons, in which case the traffic would fall, and the economic conditions in the countries would be the one that would be what is responsible for the bridge not being viable. But I don't think we're anywhere near there.
Now, Dr. James, economically, there's always a trade-off between efficiency and equity. Where does this policy fall on that spectrum, in your opinion?
Well, if the work is properly done, and you know the price at which services must be delivered, the average price at which you must deliver the airbridge services for the airbridge to be profitable, the first decision I would make is a decision as to how to deliver subsidies. Now, there are a lot of people, like myself, for example, I want to travel. I will pay the commercial fare to get between Tobago and Trinidad, going or coming. Now, not everybody in Tobago who wants to use the airbridge can say that. So what you would want to do is identify who you will subsidize. That normally would require a means test. Let's say generally the way you run public policies, you subsidize poor people and let the wealthier people, the richer people, the high income people, let them pay their way. So if you do that, then you kind of have to use the data available to you to figure out who in Tobago and who in Trinidad, because the majority of users of the airbridge are Trinidadians, who in the country should be subsidized. Let's mark that off and say the vulnerable and the poor. We can know those from living standard surveys. The CSO does them by and large. The household budgetary surveys, for example, will allow you to know the configuration of the population. And you could say we'll subsidize up to persons with incomes up to this level. That those are the ones who will get the subsidy, and you set that. And then you set up the seating arrangement like in any normal airline. You say, okay, there will be a set of subsidized seats, 15% of the seats, those would be the ones subsidized, and we'll allow the airline to manage who gets access to those subject to government policies, subject to board policy. Then there will be those seats that are commercially priced. And if you, like for example, long ago when I wanted to travel on the airline, I used to travel a lot, I would buy a club card. That's effectively raising my price, my fare. And I would get priority access to the standby seats and stuff like that. So you could stagger and structure the access to the seating on some kind of basis like that to allow for those who can afford to pay to get access to seats to pay. Now, that takes work, it takes technical data analysis and so on, but it's entirely within reach, especially in the modern day with the data tools that we have, the big data analytics we have available to us. And so if I were running the airline, that's the direction in which I would go. And I think from my discussions with people in the airline, it doesn't take too much of a big jump in the fare to get to a profit-making price. I remember in the days when Liat used to run through Tobago, I would buy a ticket on Liat. It'd be like $800. The airbridge in those days was $200, say. or 150 as the case might be, if you go far back enough. Now, the point is, you could see that the gap between the profit-making price that a Leah type operation would charge and the charges that you now pay as public, $400, say, that the airline charges, the Caribbean airline charges, that gap is not particularly wide. So those in Tobago and in Trinidad who are simply coming for pleasure can't say, well, government must subsidize my pleasure, so to say, that sort of stuff. And the other thing that you want to remember is a lot of people in Trinidad and Tobago say, well, it's Tobago and Trinidad, one country, run the airline as if you're running taxi. Well, okay, but if you run in taxi drivers don't price their fare, set their fares so that they are making a loss. So you run in the service, find the profit-making price, choose to subsidize poor people, set a fraction of the seats as subsidized seats, and let everybody else pay their way. Now, I don't think that is the way it's done, and I think that's the reason you have trouble, and you have had trouble over the decades in the airbridge service.
Dr. James, we've been hearing in recent times a figure of $1,000 being bandied about as what should be the price you would pay. There's at least one article that I read where there's this suggestion that there should be non-subsidized flight during particular periods and then other flights would be subsidized. And your position suggests that there's no policy change and therefore we can't see any changes in terms of pricing immediately. Tell us, if you can, what is the current policy position and what changes would be required to see any change in the fare structure?
Well, the way the government has been running the airline up to now is it's a public utility between Tobago and Trinidad. So you want to come home or you want to go out, as the case might be, you pay a subsidized price of $400 return. And anybody, wherever you are in the world, you come to Trinidad, if you're a visitor, anybody at all, getting access to the service gets a subsidized fare. Now, that is the basic policy, I think, that is in place right now. And I think that's not entirely rational because foreigners, for example, when I went to school in the US, I paid the profit-making price to the university. Local students paid a subsidized price for their education. You could do the same thing on the airline. Foreigners come, let me see your passport, and so on. You pay the normal fare to go, the profit-making fare to go to Tobago or to come from Tobago. Now, what we're running as tourism in Tobago, in my view, does not merit subsidizing tourists to come to Tobago. Because what we're really running as tourism in Tobago is an international service provided mainly to Trinidadians. 80-something% of the visitors coming to Tobago are really nationals, so this is not really tourism. So until we put a proper tourism industry in place, we can't really discuss seriously whether or not it makes sense to offer subsidized fares to build up the market. That, for example, is not the direction in which I think we are heading right now. We're not really developing tourism in Tobago. Now, if you move in the direction like that, then the structure that the government is running of simply subsidizing everybody should be changed as a matter of urgency to align with a proper tourism policy. Now, keep in mind here that the Auditor General just reported that we've built a huge airport in Crown Point, and they cannot get any information from the government as to when it would be open. So their value for money analysis couldn't be completed on the Crown Point A&R Robinson new build. So you're dealing in an environment in which policy is kind of knee-jerk type policy, And it needs to change. It needs to be rationalized and be guided by scientific principles. And I think the new government, this government that we have now, would be well advised to re-examine the principles on which the air bridge and the sea bridge, for that matter, are both run. Now, the last point that I would make in relation to that kind of question that you pose there is, not only is it true that there is an economic price, there is a price that is consistent with the development of the national economy and the Tobago economy in that context. And neither of those seem to me to be guiding what is going on in the air bridge or the sea bridge.
Now, what are the unintended consequences policymakers should be cautious about in this instance?
Well, I mean, policy by ignorance produces failure. That's the unintended consequence. They don't really want to mash up the airline and mash up the sea bridge and the air bridge and so on. But if you don't apply proper policies, you're going to end up with something that ultimately we can't afford. Tied to that, of course, is the capacity of the country to fund waste is declining. In the heady days when the energy industry was strong, let me put it that way, energy prices were high, and we were actually producing and refining oil and gas and so on. In those days, you had money to fund waste and incompetence, but the energy sector is under pressure, and in particular, the gas industry is under severe pressure, and the funds usable to finance wasteful practices are dwindling. So we're going to need as soon as possible to turn to careful policy making and planning. And failing that, we'll what you're calling unintended consequence would be a cumulative decline in our capacity to operate what we're operating, including the air bridge and the sea bridge. So we're kind of at a threshold moment in the country's history, and we ought to take a careful look at the science and rethink all aspects of our development policy, for one, and generally all aspects of our public sector management practices, including the practices that allow the government to get access to the full range of information it needs in order to make sound policy. The way we're set up now as government, we don't get access to the data we need, the information everybody is walking around with and complaining and criticizing and so on with in their pockets. Government really doesn't have access to that because it doesn't have any mechanism to get access to it. So what you have to do is rationalize all that in order to ultimately get rational policies in place on the air bridge and on the sea bridge. And if you fail to do that, ultimately the fundamental consequences that our economy will get into deeper and deeper straits. Let me make an observation for you, from the Auditor General's report just published on Friday. Go on there. A disturbing piece of evidence I found reading it, and I read the whole thing, is there is a tendency for the country to be becoming more and more indebted. It was more indebted in 2024-25 than it was in 2023-2024, and so on. There's a trend to unsustainable indebtedness, and we could only turn that around. And turn it around, we need to do that quickly if we put proper policies in place. The evidence we have in the record is that government policy is the fundamental barrier to the development of and diversification of the Trinidad and Tobago economy. And if we don't rationalize the way we make policy, that barrier will continue to bite us in the nose.
Now, viewers, we go for a short break and stay right here. We'll be right back.
Trinidad is my home, and I always say charity begins at home. So I'm just delighted to bring this team of dedicated volunteers. Part of our motto is that we just don't send relief. We hand deliver it with care and compassion. And as I would always tell my team, the best way to find oneself is to lose oneself in the service of others.
Be viewing Caribbean Medical TV on this station.
Sofa Factory is here in Tobago. Conveniently located Montessori Drive, Glen Road, Scarborough. Up to 20% off on select sofas for customization. Deals on some sofas from as low as $4,000 until stocks last. 10% off on all wardrobes. Half off on shower heads with the purchase of a vanity set. Come in and experience the new way to shop for furniture and see the quality in person.
Put a smile on your face when you're moving from place to place. Good morning, good morning, morning, good morning, morning.
Viewers, welcome back. Before the break, we were in conversations with Dr. Vanus James, economist, and we were talking about policy change to CAL's subsidy. And we're continuing the conversation with him. He's here with us virtually. Welcome back, Dr. James. Now, before we wrap up the interview this morning, we just want you to reiterate some of the suggestions, not just in terms of your perspectives, but in terms of what you think would be best in terms of the government's way forward, in terms of some of the changes they would need to make the air bridge a bit more profitable, in terms of the subsidies that they would either want to continue or remove.
Well, they are linked things, and the starting point, of course, is to project the appropriate price and the structure of pricing so that you subsidize those who merit subsidies, and all the rest of us, including all the visitors, would pay a commercial rate to use the bridge. Now, for that in general to be viable in the long term, unfortunately, you have to develop the Tobago economy. In other words, you have to ensure that the flow of visitors coming to Tobago expands from nationals wanting to come to Tobago to enjoy themselves to the international community coming to Tobago for long stay purposes. So you expand dramatically the number of persons who are using the bridge and who are using the bridge commercially. In other words, those who can pay their way, visitors coming for long stay reasons. And the number of visitors growing overall. That would be the anchor on which the air bridge itself would be viable in the long term. But you've got to rationalize the price in relation to the reference profit-making price above break-even, so to say. And you have to get the development program in the country and in Tobago especially on the way so that the bridge could be financed on its economic merits.
Dr. James, we unfortunately have to bring it to an end at this point. There's so much more that needs to be discussed. You've always been one who provides really insightful perspectives in a way that the average man on the street can appreciate. We want to thank you for joining us and for sharing with us this morning. And we trust that sometime in the very near future, we can have you back to continue discussions of this nature. Thank you again for joining us. And for
thank you both. Enjoy your day.
And the same to you. Thank you.
Now, viewers, this has brought us to the end of Tobago Updates morning show programming. But here on Tobago Updates, we aren't finished. Up next, we have GMT. Stay tuned and remember to share the live, share the live, share the live.
stands for basically inclusion, because we have a lot of students who may have a disability, but we still accommodate them because that is who we are. Over the past 3 months, we were at the library from a Monday and Wednesday at 3:30 to 6. And during those hours, we were mentoring the students how to walk, how to sit up straight, how to be able to create their own designs. And that is what they will be portraying today, their own designs. Instead of us creating them for them, they were their own designers tonight.
Experience was good, but it was a bit frustrating at times.
You have to put a lot of effort and you have to be dedicated to actually be where you want to be, and I think it was a good experience. The show is looking good so far, everything is going great, and I really appreciate to be here today.
It's very amazing. I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait for the next time.
That was a production of the Department of Information, Office of the Chief Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly.
Trinidad and Tobago sent a contingent of 76 persons. I may be off 1 or 2, but 76 persons, while Tobago sent a contingent of 16 athletes. Right? Out of the 16 athletes, we got 15 medals. Exceptional.
16 of you went and 15 medals came back. 42% of the medals that we got as a country came from Tobago. That is something to be proud of. Give yourselves another round of applause. I stood looking at the television, looking at your performances, looking at how all of you were able to bring an entire country together. Because that is the power of sport. Sport has the ability to bring nations, to bring countries, to even bring enemies together. You have a uniting power. And I want you to take every advantage of the power that you have.
On behalf of the whole Trinidad and Tobago team, as one of the team captains,
And by extension, the Tobago athletes, I would love to say thank you so much. Thank you for everything that you all have done for us so far, and thank you in advance for everything that you will do for us in the future.
That was a production of the Department of Information, Office of the Chief Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly.
You're viewing Tobago Updates Television, your exclusive gateway to Tobago, broadcasting the beauty of this island paradise to the world.
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago right here on Tobago Updates. I am your host, Chanel Felix. Ladies and gentlemen, you know whenever you see me sitting here, it's because we're about to have those conversations that you want to have while I ask those questions that you want asked. But before we get into this morning's interesting topics and conversations, let's have our news in 90 seconds. The Trinidad and Tobago Regional Nursing Association begins its Total Patient Care Action today. The union is strictly enforcing a 1:6 nurse-to-patient ratio and has threatened name and shame by publishing names and pictures of chairmen, CEOs, GMs, and nursing practitioners and other nursing administrators who oversee unsafe conditions. However, Health Secretary Dr. Faith Brebner says Tobago remains unaffected. She notes the island's ratios are already between 1:5 and 1:7, assuring the public that local healthcare services continue to run steadily with contingencies in place. Additionally, outrage is growing among marine operators following the passage of the Marine Park Bill. The new legislation unveils harsh penalties for offenders, with fines jumping from merely $1,000 to as high as $100,000, while the THA insists these measures are vital for public safety after the recent Pigeon Point tragedy. Tour guides and jet ski operators claim the fines are excessive and threaten their livelihoods. And finally, if you're traveling by sea this weekend, take note. Starting May 1st, the Inter-Island Ferry Service is implementing new boarding procedures. Passengers will have their boarding passes scanned twice, first upon entering the departure lounge and again before stepping onto the vessel. Customer service reps will be stationed by the Port of Spain and Scarborough terminals to help guide travelers through the new flow. Ladies and gentlemen, that was our news in 90 seconds. We jump straight into our conversation this morning, and as you heard it in our news in 90 seconds, there have been harshly implemented fines that has taken a steep jump from 1,000 to even 100,000 for jet ski and other water sport operators in case of any incidences that may happen in the marine park. This morning, I have the privilege of sitting here in studio and chatting with Mr. Ricardo Phillips, who is an independent politician here in Tobago. And we're talking about the jet ski fines as well as Caribbean Airlines and a number of other topics, right? Good morning, Ricardo, and welcome.
Good morning, Tobago Updates, Tobago, Trinidad by extension. Good morning, and thank you for having me on the program.
It's a pleasure to have you this morning. Well, as you heard, there has been a big change there in response to that tragedy that happened just a few weeks ago. What are some of your thoughts? Have you been having conversations with stakeholders? Are you hearing what is being said on the ground?
Well, I mean, this is nothing new for Trinidad and Tobago, and in this particular case, Tobago, because we have a rich tradition in reacting to scenarios and waiting until something, serious happens before we can act. And as a consequence of that, people react to the harsh decision that is made at the point in time. If you have vision for the island, you would take care of all these scenarios for future down the road, so that you don't end up in a situation where you have to wait until something tragic happens and then impose some harsh penalties to give the public the impression that you're actually doing something. Because obviously you're going to have people going to react to that in a negative way because they're not accustomed to. What we're accustomed to is, everybody with the lawlessness doing what they want, you doing what you want, and so on. And the government sit by and look at it and say, all right, we're going to wait until something serious happens. And so that is the reaction you get from the implementation of such the passing rather of such a bill.
Understood. However, something had to happen. What type of policy implementation were you looking forward to or looking to see after that incident?
Well, prior to this happening, vision is the only thing that's supposed to happen. Vision for Tobago, vision for the tourism sector, vision for every aspect of the tourism sector. That is what must happen. Not something happened, some incident happening, and then it push you now to make this type of decision. So in terms of the policies and what you want to see happen, again, you have to bring all the stakeholders together and you discuss how we should, especially the operators and the tour guides and all the different people involved in tourism in Tobago, bring them together, have a discussion on what is best for the sector. Not a government reacting to, and I've seen it over and over. This country have a rich tradition, as I said before, of reacting to situation. And the reaction doesn't necessarily mean that, we're going to have a better, look for a better scenario in the future. It's just a reaction now to what the government is doing. People want to continue to operate with a level of lawlessness that is dangerous to the entire society. So if you have vision, you would be able to take care of these scenarios in a timely manner, get all the stakeholders together in a timely fashion and have discussion and implementation as we go along.
Understood. Even as it pertains to the jet ski operators and them organizing themselves accordingly, what type of activities do you think need to be taking place now among them to ensure that they move forward in the best interest of themselves as well as increasing the quality and the security and safety of the tourism product that they offer?
Safety first. Safety. You have a lot of safety discussion. I think based on what we've seen happening, and based on all the information, we have a lot of data on the jet ski scenario in Tobago. This is not a first time incident. This is not something new to us. We have a lot of data, a lot of information, and again, if you collect those information from the people on the ground, you would be able to deal with the safety aspect of it, because that's the major concern for everybody who's using the other people who are not jet skiing and using the facility. The concern is, the safety. So I think this discussion, and I don't know whether you find the rules. I mean, people know what the rules are. We have to find a way to ensure that the public is safe and the jet ski operators are safe, and that the operation is profitable, and they're following the rule of law, and all these scenarios that you have to bring together to ensure that it's thriving, and that it's structured, it's well organized, and all those things that we desire but are unable to pursue. That is what you need to do.
Right. And we heard from Caribbean Airlines recently with their suggestion of removing the subsidy for particular flights, which would be obviously by choice for persons who are trying to get to Tobago during the peak season. They are structuring it as something that persons can opt into, paying $1,000 for a ticket to Tobago and being able to get that shore ticket, especially during that peak time where everyone is on standby. What are your thoughts on that?
But I think that is happening now with the, I'm not sure the name of the card, but you have a card where you pay $2,500 for. And
the club card.
Club card, I think that's something similar to that.
Right.
It's just that they're you know, not necessarily
it's a one-off.
Yeah. But I think, yeah, you see, we got to always go back to what has caused us to be in the situation that we're in. And in my understanding of the thing, in the past, we have a strong tradition, government subsidizing a lot of things for us. People are not aware that the government is spending the extra money to ensure that you get a flight for $150 from the days it was $50 to now $200 as the case may be. And that always carries a danger, because when you're in a situation where you can no longer afford it, it creates a problem for you to get out of it. And that is what we're seeing now, the raw cost. Because Air Caribbean and the government, by extension, I imagine, is trying to ease the way out of that subsidizing that flight and finding other ways to generate. And the only way you can do that is to come up with these ideas that, listen, in peak periods, you're going to pay more, etc., etc., etc. So I think people are going to have to brace themselves. The country is going to have to brace themselves. More importantly, the people of Tobago are going to have to brace themselves for that kind of creeping, you know, incremental kind of increase in the fares between Trinidad and Tobago. And again, if you understand the history of subsidiaries and subsidizing stuff, we are where we are because of that.
Understood. Even as it pertains to the relationship between Trinidad and Tobago, many persons, continue to harp on the fact that free-flowing transportation between Trinidad and Tobago is a right and not necessarily a privilege. So when persons talk about the fact that Caribbean Airlines may not be profitable, or that the transportation between Trinidad and Tobago, particularly that domestic flight, is not profitable, that should not be the focus as it pertains to Caribbean Airlines relationship. Being that carrier that bridges the gap between Trinidad and Tobago. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's one way to look at it. But you can't ignore the fact that an airline have to operate on profit. Whether or not this is a government entity that the government want to take responsibility for, financial responsibility for, to facilitate Tobago, then that is something that another point to look at, another point of view to look at it. But I think the struggle between whether it's going to be a government project or it's going to be a profitable venture is where they have to meet and decide, well, what is this going to be? I do think it's a right for people between Trinidad and Tobago, and more so Tobago, to be able to travel freely between the islands. But I'm saying that we have to work out that details into whether or not government has decided, listen, we're going to have to fund this for the rest of our existence, or we're going to have to make it profitable. That decision has to be, measured and sorted out.
Right. How do you think that would affect the relationship between Trinidad and Tobago if it's a situation where in the long term we see the complete removal of that subsidy, especially where Tobago's autonomy is concerned?
Well, obviously it's going to be hard for the people of, of Trinidad and Tobago, and not necessarily Tobago alone. And I don't see this having anything to do with autonomy, because again, the air bridge is not only for the people of Tobago. It's the people of a lot of people in Trinidad who come to Tobago for business, for pleasure, and so on. And that adds to the Tobago economy and so on. So I think it's going to be difficult for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. So again, the government have to decide whether or not we want to carry this, or we're going to increase it a little bit to take away the burdens. There's a whole lot of dynamics that you have to, and options available, I imagine. Again, this tradition and culture of a social society where the government is involved in so many things, and we're going to pay for this, and we're going to pay for that, we're going to subsidize this and stuff. That has to be dealt with over a period of time. If you deal with it, then you have a culture and an economic mindset of people having to pay for but it has to be profitable on all sides.
But when I think about the inclusion of, the aspect of Tobago's autonomy, I think about that move towards the THA possibly playing a role in ensuring that remains an affordable means of transportation between Trinidad and Tobago. So if the burden is removed from the central government and Tobago has more authority over, let's say, things like ports, then I would think that with that shift, in order to maintain the affordability, you might see a situation where either other carriers come on board, you have competition for Caribbean Airlines, you open up the market for other players to be a part of it, or possibly THA subsidizing that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, THA can't subsidize anything because if THA have to subsidize something, that means that the government of Trinidad and Tobago have to subsidize it because THA doesn't make any money on its own. So that's the first problem you have. You can talk about autonomy, you can talk about independence, but if you don't have, the finance to deal with the ideas and the things that you want to do, then that's just talk. So that's the first problem. The THA can't say, well, all right, if the government of Trinidad and Tobago, or the central government rather, can't handle it, we're going to handle it. Where are you getting money from to handle it? You're going to have to still depend on the allocation they get from the central government to be able to do all the things that you want to do in Tobago. And that's why I keep saying over the years that the leadership and the vision for Tobago is to really develop Tobago's economy, an independent economy from what we receive from central government. There's so many aspects and so many industries that we can develop here that you create less burden on the THA and more independence for the private sector and so on. So in terms of THA stepping in, THA, you can step in with talk, and that's a lot of what we have in the past, but you can't step in any other way to do anything else because you need money for that. If you're going to talk about subsidizing, you need money. Central government can do that, but the THA can't because the money you get from the THA is barely enough to deal with your domestic issue. Then you start to talk about subsidizing airline and that kind of, that's not an easy task. So that's the problem. That's the problem we face, the dilemma we face in Tobago. And I don't see autonomy changing that. As a matter of fact, the suggestion of other players participating and so on and open up the thing for other people to get involved is competitive and it's business. That's how business operates. And you don't really need autonomy or the idea or the notion of autonomy to achieve that. That can happen as we stand. THA can represent that kind of ideas right now. So the Tobago, but among other things, again, you can't just look at the airline independently. You have to look at so many other industries to be able to strengthen and make it profitable for everybody. The people traveling, the people doing business, the airlines and so on. So there's a whole lot of discussion that must be had in order for this thing to be profitable, not isolated in terms of the airline or the air bridge as the case may be. There's so many things that has to happen.
Understood. Well, we're going to take a quick break right here and we'll be back with much more on this conversation after this. See you soon.
Looking for office attire or worship apparel, then come to Tia's Classic Closet. Shopping for casual clothing or just want to dress down. Big discount, so it's you on clothing and comfortable shoes. Get some wonderful accessories to match your attire. Come to Tia's Classic Closet at 39 Montgomery Road. Opening hours daily from 9:30 to 5:30. For more information, call 710-168-99999.
Our world is filled with rhythm. Rhythm that's unapologetic, infectious, timeless. Rhythm is commitment in action. It's how we show up for each other with unrelenting support that goes the distance. Rhythm lives in the tiny beats of our most intimate moments and the seismic roars of our biggest achievements. Rhythm is resilience in motion. So even when things go out of sync, we do what it takes to bring the rhythm back. At Flow, we understand your rhythm because we live it. That's why we're dedicated to building a network as resilient as you, with a team of familiar faces working every day to keep you on beat. You're at the heart of everything we do, and our commitment is to keep your rhythm flowing, no matter what.
Sofa Factory is here in Tobago. Conveniently located Montessori Drive, Glen Road, Scarborough. Up to 20% off on select sofas for customization. Deals on some sofas from as low as $4,000 until stocks last. 10% off on all wardrobes. Half off on shower heads with the purchase of a vanity set. Come in and experience the new way to shop for furniture and see the quality in person.
Are you ready, Tobago, for the BHS Centennial Raffle Live Draw? 10 amazing prizes, one unforgettable evening. Join us this Thursday, April 30th at 5 p.m. live on the Rotunda at the Esplanade in Tobago. Catch the action live on Tobago Update wherever you are. Who will take home the grand prize? It could be you.
Good morning and welcome back to Good Morning Tobago right here on Tobago Updates. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been chatting with independent politician here on the island of Tobago, Mr. Ricardo Phillips. Good morning again and welcome back. We saw just, I believe, 2 weeks ago an announcement was made about the centralizing of domestic departures to be relocated to the international departures lounge, and that has since been pulled back for reconsideration. Were you able to pay attention to that? And what were some of your views about moving that departure lounge for domestic travel downstairs to one centralized security system at the Priaco Airport?
You know, I just know that we have a problem with change in Trinidad and Tobago. I haven't paid much attention to it, but you know, based on the songs that you're getting, the reaction they're getting from people, every time the government tries to make a change, you have that kind of negative reaction because we're not accustomed to change, and people prefer things to go the way things are going. And if it does that, then wherever we end up. So any new ideas and so on, you're going to have the reaction. Now, I'm not sure what the reasoning behind the pullback or the reasoning, you know, the implementation rather. But I do know that we react to change in a very negative way, and it's difficult because of our history, because of our tradition. It's very, very difficult, I imagine, for any government, the THA and the central government alike, to implement any kind of new changes and just welcome. You're going to have receive it in a welcoming way. So that is a difficult scenario for any government at this point in time to implement changes in any scenario, any situation in Trinidad and Tobago.
Right, but there is the conversation about moving forward. There's the conversation about having that level of progress and development. So do you think that there is a contradiction between the development that people say that they want versus when development actually happens? Or is it a situation where persons in Trinidad and Tobago truly prioritize or value the importance of public consultation?
The dangers of where we are, you know, it takes a generation or two to see cultural changes, to change the mindset. The people who fighting for change now, like myself and others, would probably not live to see the actual change. We have to understand the kind of damage that's been done to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And when we talk about progress, people see progress in their own narrow, isolated, insular sort of scenario, sort of way, progress that benefits them. But we don't see progress in terms of vision for generation to come, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. When politicians speak in Trinidad and Tobago, they talk about or speak about progress within the confines of a 1 term, 4 years or 5 years. In Tobago, that happens. In Trinidad, it happens. But in real developed or countries with visions and leadership with vision, people talk about change and development for 20, 30 years down the road. We're going to see, and we're going to have to experience in Trinidad and Tobago maybe a 2 or 3 generation before we see actual change. And the people who would probably benefit from that hasn't been born yet. But there are those with a vision, with the understanding, as I say, like myself, who understand what it takes to transform a mindset that's been damaged like ours for all these years. So we're going to have that kind of pushback, no matter what it is. There are those who are very comfortable in the situation that we're in because the understanding or the interpretation of change or progress is just whether or not they can benefit from it and not the future generation to come. We haven't gotten to that place. The level of maturity and the love for God and country to say, we want to do this so that 20 years, 30 years down the road, when I'm probably dead and gone, that the generation coming up will benefit from it. We are not there yet.
But do you think the value of that public consultation with the relevant stakeholders remains an integral part of development?
Yeah, of course, definitely. Public referendum, public consultation, whatever you want to call it, is important. But you're not going to get away from the mindset that everybody going to be coming to seeking their own interests. And it's not nothing to do with God and country. I mean, there are very few people understand the principle of putting country first. So when you have, I've seen consultation, I've been to consultation in the past, and I've seen where this political party represent this idea, and this other political party represent this idea, and then this group represent the self, and everybody coming with their own selfish desires and ambitions and so on. And we have to be able to, for example, this marine bill, I think, is a good thing in its intent. It's a good thing to have to manage the resources, the natural resources on the island. The problem I have with it is that the implementation and the management of it for the future, that is going to be a major challenge for any government, given our mindset. So we must be able to see and to recognize when something is valuable, something is good for the country, and to be able to point out and to isolate what we think needs to be done or think must happen, and not just pick a side. And when you pick a side, you stay focused on that side because it doesn't justify, or it has to justify your own narrow views on what you think progress should be. I am one of the politicians who believe that if I see something that is sensible, I should be able to point out and say that. It doesn't matter who do it, whether it's PNM or UNC or TPP or whoever, I should be able to say that's a good idea. And if we have more of that kind of leadership on the island, in the country, as a matter of fact, I think we would be on our way to making that kind of progress that we talk about for the future. Outside of that, we're not ready.
Right, understood. And when we look at it, as the time approaches, we are exactly on the 1 year mark since the first year in office of this central government. What are your opinions? What grade would you give this government since they have been installed into office in 2025?
Well, you see, for me, it's not about grade. The problem we have is this government has been caught up in the same mindset, the same culture that as previous government. They have learned politics from the PNM. They have learned the PNM style of politics and trying to try to do the best to make a difference. I can say this, and I want to say this, I want to make sure that people understand. I'm not saying this with any kind of malice, any anti-government sentiment, but I'm definitely sure, and I'm certain, 100% certain, that this government will not be able to make any change, the kind of change that we expect in Trinidad and Tobago in the next 100 years, if you give them 100 years. It's never going to happen. If you want to make a change in terms of make progress and be a different government from the previous government and the one that you condemn and so on, what you're doing now is never going to help. The crime is going to still increase. You're going to have problems with corruption. You're going to still have the problem with all sorts of scenarios if you continue to continue the type of politics that we have. And so the UNC government, the Prime Minister Kamala Prasad Bisesa, the government of Trinidad and Tobago cannot and will not make any change in terms of making progress. We probably build a road here and fix that this year and fix a drain and that kind of stuff. Spend money. We will definitely spend money. But in terms of creating a more settled society and a more structured society, we're going to never see that. That's not going to happen.
Understood. When you talk about progress and moving forward as a society, we understand that the society itself, us as a people, we play a huge role in that as well. What type of cultural or mindset shifts do you think is needed in order for us to facilitate that, not just from a governance perspective? Because as you say, you can have all the great ideas, but you have to have a public that is willing to go in the direction of the policies that you are implementing. What do you think as a society our role is when we see the move towards development?
Leadership is critical, and we've been void of that for a number of years. We have people who represent, again, ideas and organizations and groups and so on, but we have never had any real leadership for the people of Trinidad and Tobago, leadership that operates independently, leadership that represents the greater good of the country rather than a particular group or sector, as the case may be. And I think that has been our fundamental problem from day one. We have had no experience, really, of true leadership, that a person who is willing to put everything on the line for the principles and what is right and what is order and what is structured and so on. We have not seen that. We don't have that. We have political leaders, we have party people who head party, and we have all that kind of scenario, but we have never had in Trinidad and Tobago effective leadership that shape mindset, that help people to take them into a particular direction. That is what we need in this country, to see changes, leadership. Not the head of a new political party or a political party, not a prime minister, not a president, but the leadership is critical to understand the direction why change will come. And when you have a society, when people make decisions, for example, we have a prime minister that makes decisions based on a number of factors, and it's based on survivability. And that is, you have to consider your party's position, you have to consider your finances, financiers, you have to consider the direction the party want to go. You have to consider all those factors rather than first and foremost, listen, we have to consider one thing and one thing only, is the country. And whether you're from this race or you're that race, or you're from this party, from that party, we're going to make decisions that the benefits of everyone. People talk that. Yeah, you have that kind of narrative that's going on, but we don't have the actual and practicality of it that's really taking place. And the country is able to see through that. So what you have now is that they place everybody in a survival kind of mode. Everybody, every man for himself type of scenario. So yeah, again, leadership is critical for any kind of move in the right direction, progress. The first and foremost thing that you must do is leadership.
Understood. For you have been an independent candidate for a number of elections past in Tobago. What have you been up to thus far, and how have you been working in the community to continue with the type of leadership that you're talking about?
Well, I had to keep fanning the flames of again, vision and talk about the vision. If you understand Tobago and understand Trinidad and Tobago, it's a question of having vision that will really make some changes, and the potential is tremendous if you have vision. So I have to continue to fan that flame of vision and leadership in my own right, because I'm not in a political position of power or economics to do the kind of things that I would like to do, but it doesn't void me of having the kind of vision that I know that I can articulate all the time in terms of what ought to be done, what should be done, and where we can go with, and the inclusion of others, getting all the ideas and so on. The isolation in terms of this party now, when the people that you talk to, it has to be a supporter, it has to be somebody you know. I mean, that is just, a disaster from the get-go for this country. There are intelligent people out there who have ideas that you need to get involved, and they don't have to be a member of your party. They don't have to be a supporter of your party. They have to be a supporter of the country and the vision and what they want to see for the country. So for me, that is what I'm going to continue to articulate, my vision, and this is my philosophy, the core philosophy of my political party. And just to correct you, just not an independent candidate anymore, but a political leader for, a political party, and that's Class Action Reform Movement. And that name itself talks about speaks volume to the idea and the notion of we need to reform, we need to change our mindset, we need cultural change. As I said, these things, you have to have leadership to even to start this. For me, that's basically what I'm about.
Understood. Well, we want to thank you so much for being here this morning and chatting with us and touching on a number of those topics. It's always interesting to kind of pick your brain a bit. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick break right here and we'll be back after this with much more conversations. See you soon.
Let's go. It's a brand new morning. Rise up to a brand new dawning. As the passion start to rise, the energy fill the skies. I say thanks a favor to wake up and hear me neighbor.
Make your goals a reality this season with Mount Pleasant Credit Union. Tobago's choice, we got you smiling. Come and feel that mid-year feeling, oh yeah. Mid-year island dreams, we make it easy. $20,000 to $100,000. Come and see, we warm hearts, bright plans, your goals grow. Mount Pleasant Credit Union, Tobago's choice. Every loan once approved, more reasons to celebrate. Chance to win big, doesn't that feel great? Up to $3,500 in exciting gift certificates. Share investment starts as low as $2,500. Mid-year island dreams, we make it easy. $20,000 to $100,000. Come and see, we warm hearts, bright plans. Let your goals grow. Whoa. Mount Pleasant Credit Union, Tobago's choice.
Baby, when you whine on me, somebody gets the phone, telephone. I get wet. I'm looking all through the party. I hope I find you there.
Quartz is well known as the Caribbean's largest retailer, providing consumers for generations with the very best products to enhance their homes. This year, we bring our expertise to businesses. Quartz Business Solutions will serve small, medium, and large companies with the very best products at the most competitive prices, backed by warranties and after-sales support. Hoteliers, office managers, restaurants, and so many more. Quartz Business Solutions, a brand of the Unicomer Group.
This is how it's gonna go. They better look up below, 'cause this is your show, and everybody's gonna know. Say it to them once again. They better look up below. This is your show, and everybody's gonna know. That's how it's gonna go. They better look up below, 'cause this is your show.
Sofa Factory is here in Tobago. Conveniently located Montessori Drive, Glen Road, Scarborough. Up to 20% off on select sofas for customization. Deals on some sofas from as low as $4,000 until stocks last. 10% off on all wardrobes. Half off on shower heads with the purchase of a vanity set. Come in and experience the new way to shop for furniture and see the quality in person.
Are you ready, Tobago, for the BHS Centennial Raffle Live Draw? 10 amazing prizes, one unforgettable evening. Join us this Thursday, April 30th at 5 p.m. live on the Rotunda at the Esplanade in Tobago. Catch the action live on Tobago Updates wherever you are. Who will take home the grand prize? It could be you.
Welcome to Tobago Glass Supplies Limited, where innovation meets excellence and service reigns supreme. Our commitment is simple: to provide high-quality, innovative aluminum, vinyl, and glass solutions for both commercial and residential spaces. At TGSL, we don't just meet needs, we exceed expectations. Our range includes the finest aluminum cladding options, setting new standards in durability and style. Driven by our passion to elevate, we aim to be the leading supplier in the Caribbean market while retaining our identity as a family-owned business. Because at Tobago Glass Supplies Limited, it's not just about products. It's about relationships, it's about you. Innovation, quality, service. That's Tobago Glass Supplies Limited.
Okay. 335, 336, 337, 338, 339,
Counting on your fingers again. No wonder you lose your business.
Grandpa, thanks for helping me start over.
You not lucky in business, you know. As a child, you tried to sell hog plum. That failed. As a teenager, you and your boyfriend tried to break into the jewelry business. But hey, where that boy end up?
He live in Aruka in the Grove. The golden one.
Oh, child, if you want to get into business, you have to have your financial records intact. But hey, do you know your numbers?
Of course, 624 333.
No, child, your numbers, your ratios, your equity ratios. You have a financial handicap.
What?
You need to see somebody about that. Anderson.
Who?
Anderson in Trinidad and Tobago, they offer tax and accounting services. They know about financial management.
Grandpa, I started this business with nothing.
And nothing is what you will end up with unless you call Anderson Services. Here.
Okay, this card is nice.
Yeah.
What's this?
Your rental fee. Have business will pay rent. Hot and groovy in the soca party.
Looking for office attire or worship apparel, then come to Tia's Classic Closet. Shopping for casual clothing or just want to dress down. Big discounts awaits you on clothing and comfortable shoes. Get some wonderful accessories to match your attire. Come to Tia's Classic Closet at 39 Montgomery Road. Opening hours daily from 9:30 to 5:30. For more information, call 710-168-9999.
Yeah. Tobago updates. Good morning, Tobago. Let's go. It's a brand new morning. Rise up to a brand new dawning. As the passion start to rise, the energy fill the skies. I say thanks for favor to wake up and hear me neighbor. 60,000 people strong, and the vibes is never wrong. We are beauty, we are power, we are people in the sun. We are beaches, we are rivers, we are melanated ones. We special and there is no denying. Tobago is number one. I am you and you are me. Together we stronger.
Good morning and welcome Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago right here on Tobago Updates. This morning, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about the MindStar Spelling Bee Finals. Yes, we're talking about the Spelling Bee Finals that's happening right here in Tobago. Ladies and gentlemen, this morning I have the opportunity to quickly chat with Mrs. Adana Williams. We're talking about this event that's taking place on Thursday, the 30th of April. Good morning and welcome.
A pleasant good morning to you, Miss Felix, and thanks for having me here this morning.
Right. I saw it being extremely important to let Tobago know that last week there was the preliminaries that happened, the semifinals actually, that took place at the Boko Integrated Facility for this competition, and we had a number of primary schools and high schools in Tobago taking part in the competition, students performing exceptionally well, and the finals for that competition culminates on a Thursday the 30th. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, this Thursday, which is the 30th of April, the finals of the MindStar National Spelling Bee and Tech Park will take place at the main auditorium, Shore Park Complex, Tobago. It begins at 9 a.m. and schools have to be seated at 8:30 a.m. The schools that will forwarded to the finals, who made it to the finals, they have all been notified. And, we want principals to send that support. As we know, the main auditorium is a large space. Our sponsors, SM Jaleel, Bermuda's Biscuit, Holiday Snacks, and I want to add B Mobile would be doing a photo booth for the students. So students, when you come in, you will have that excitement of going on to that in going into that photo booth and having your pictures taken. We have Tobago Technology, Information Technology Limited. We have Mr. Williams and his team doing a fantastic job, because at the preliminary semi-finals, we would have seen the enthusiasm of the students wanting to be a part of the technological arrangements that they had there, from the virtual realities to just a little bit of everything when it comes to technology, a little bit of robotics, and the atmosphere was very positive. The children were not just elated, but they were eager to get along. I must say I was impressed with how parents and teachers would have prepared students, because we had a number of students spelling all their words accurately, and we really want to thank especially the Division of Education in Extension, Assemblyman Mr. Kerr, and also his advisor, Ms. Felix, and the SS3, Mrs. Hackett, for giving us that support. Support is important. And when we look at Tobago, we look at Penny Savers, Richard's Hardware, I think it's G's Appliances, and also our partners and our sponsors such as B Mobile, SM Jaleel Bermudez, also the Tobago, the tourism and hospitality, the hospitality school, they also sponsored some refreshments for the children. And I mean, the day was fantastic. Despite we had to do a contingency plan, everything went well. And I was very happy on that day. And we took that energy from Tobago, we took it to Trinidad into our prelims in Trinidad on that day for secondary school. So I must say, I really liked the energy. And I want the principals of the schools to let the children come out and support their participants in the finals. These finalists will go to Trinidad, of who wins each category will go to Trinidad to compete with the finalists in Trinidad, making it the ultimate national spelling bee, MindStar National Spelling Bee. So Tobago, let's rally behind our young people, and let's see if Tobago could be Trinidad. Let's see how it goes.
We will see. You have persons talking about the fact that the difficulty level of this particular spelling bee. Persons have said that it was too many words for students to memorize. It was too extensive of a list, pulling from all different areas, from agriculture, from science, from the environment, you name it. Everything was put into that word list. What do you say to the persons who say that this was a bit too difficult for these students?
What I say to the persons that we limit our students. We go with the mindset, which is I can't. And we as educators cannot adapt that mindset to children. We are in just not the 21st century, but we in a technological age where young people, their mind is the growth of their mind is different. They're learning through technology, they're learning very quickly. And we are in an educational system that is beyond them and does not align with how their learning styles are, which is the use of technology. We are still teaching them chalk and talk and whiteboard and using things that the children don't acquaint with. Every child, if they don't have access to a laptop or a cell phone or a tablet, they are about and on technology. And now everybody's using AI, even the primary school children. So these words might be hard for the adults, but the children see this challenge as something that they can go and they can make value out of this. And we continue to limit the children when we just have them at one level. What about that child who is bored in your class because you have them in a level that they want to be lifted? They are gifted students. How do we, what are we doing to challenge those gifted students who are just, they want that challenge in the classroom and they can't get it because you continue to just keep them on one level. So we want technology, we want progress, but we want to be left behind. I would have played the video excerpt from Aquila and the Bee. This movie is possibly 10 years or more old. And we take everything from the American system, how we dress, how our houses are built, and all these different things. But why can't we take the good things? And when you look at Aquila the Bee, which was almost 10 years ago, we would have seen that those children would have been learning words that would have been quote unquote advanced. Sometimes when you watch a video, you would say, I don't even know that word. We will see persons in the video commenting who are supporting from home. Woo, first time they're hearing that word. So when something new happens and it's not the regular thing, people will say, oh, it's difficult, it's hard. But we cannot limit the children. It might be difficult for them, but it's not difficult for the children. The children are using AI to be able to get the right pronunciation of the words. They get the spelling of the words, the definition of the words, to use the words in a sentence. It is more meaningful how they are learning it. And I have seen that, not because it's just my competition, from the legs in Trinidad and the legs in Tobago, you see that there's some children getting all these words that are quote unquote difficult. And I want to commend the parents who are going above and beyond with their child. And this is my point to prove. If we want greatness in our nation, we will have those students who will become our leaders, our innovators, our creatives, our dynamic persons in our society who would lift our nation higher, right. Both Trinidad and Tobago. So for those who say it is difficult, it is not difficult. It's just a mindset. And we have to change our mindset.
Understood. Well, just remind the public of the date, time, location for the Spelling Bee finals, some of the schools that can be captured in the finals. Well, actually, before the winner is chosen to go to Trinidad to be a part of the national finals.
Oh, so I'll just remind you of the venue. The venue is at Shore Park, the main auditorium, and the time That would be on the 30th of April, 2026, and schools have to be seated at 8:30 because we want to start promptly. We would be having the president of the NPTA. He would be making a presentation. There also, our invited guests, myself, also the secretary of the division, Assemblyman Orlando Kerr. We have also invited him to give words of power and words of encouragement to the students who are there. And I just going to let you know the schools that are in this finals. So we would have, we will have for the standard ones, Blackrock Government, Roxborough Anglican, Wim Anglican, St. Andrews Anglican, Montgomery Government, Golden Lane Government, and Bell Garden Anglican. And for the standard 2s and 3s, we have St. Andrews Anglican, Bell Garden Anglican, Wim Anglican, Montgomery Government, Golden Lane Government, and Roxborough Anglican. And for the 4s and 5s, we have Wim Anglican Primary, we have Montgomery Government, Bell Gardens Anglican, Golden Lane Government, St. Andrews Anglican. And for the secondary schools, we have Bishop High School and Scarborough Secondary. We have Harmons High School. Those would be the schools that are in to the finals. And we have our defending champion for that standard 2 and 3 level. We have, he's coming from Lambo Anglican. So it's a competitive show. Let's give all our support to these young people who would have gotten a test of how the spelling bee is. And I wish them good success on Thursday, 30th April 2026.
Right,
Thank you.
ladies and gentlemen, just your reminder that this is the Mindstar Spelling Bee Finals that will be taking place at Shaw Park Cultural Complex come Thursday the 30th. And this is something that, you know, if your child is going to any one of those schools that you have heard mentioned there, that they may be out there representing and supporting their colleagues. Ladies and gentlemen, again, we want to invite you to come out and support our young, brilliant minds in this National Spelling Bee competition. It starts promptly at 9 a.m. at the Shaw Park Cultural Complex. Adana, we want to thank you so much for being here this morning and all the work that you have been doing at A.L. Williams Education Services and consultancy. We know that you are, deeply engrossed in a number of other areas as it pertains to education. And we look forward to seeing you very soon to discuss more of those initiatives that you have planned for the island of Tobago. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you so much for being a part of this morning's discussions. We want to thank you for your likes, your shares, and your comments, and all that you have been doing and continue to do to make Tobago Updates the #1 broadcaster here on the island of Tobago. Again, I am Chanel Felix, and have a great day.